W.E.B. DuBois Preparatory School.
Pray with me. O great force that calls the universe into being, who is also called God, Yahweh, Allah, Shiva, Jan, and all the rich names that we ascribe to you, as we reach out to establish relationship, as we reach out to be your servants, as we reach out to be your children. We come today to have you bless this event, first with your presence, and with all the bounty that you have to heap on the heads of these graduates, upon Aisha Shule, and upon everyone present. We are grateful to be here, for this ends the beginning of a long journey, and it is the commencement of another journey, and another journey, and another journey, and another journey. And we would ask you to always travel in the lives of these young people. We would ask you to always travel in the life of Aisha Shule and W.E.B. DuBois Academy. We would always ask you to travel in the lives of everyone present. Be with us, and at times when we speak too much, teach us to be silent and listen for the answers.
May we all stand now and sing our national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. cannot go forward.
Imhotep.
I understand they're working on the water. We want to pour libations, but maybe we'll have to say libation. I can't stand behind here. I have to walk and deal with it. I want our graduates to stand. Permission from our elders. Thank you. Libations is one of our sacred traditions that we give praise to Almighty God. We thank God for allowing us to be here, for allowing these young people to stand before us today, who have journeyed a long way, longer than they know, farther than they know. For they indeed stand upon the shoulders of our ancestors. And we thank Almighty God that we can come and witness the glory of their rites of passage. But it's not just a graduation, but it is indeed an initiation from one level to the next. So we thank Almighty God for giving all of us the breath of life to be here today. We say, Ashe. Ashe. We thank Almighty God for providing us with just a little bit of sanity and a full of insane work. We say, Ashe. Ashe. We ask that God give strength, give you courage, give you the foresight, the vision that you need to go forward as you embark upon your journey. We say, Ashe. Ashe. We give libations to our ancestors, first and foremost, the ancestors of your particular families. If you know and remember the name of your ancestors who are gone on, we ask that you invoke their name now, that you call upon them.
Kahaji. Sadiqua. James Rand.
It is those ancestors who many of you may not have seen in your lifetime, but have heard about them, have read about them. It is they whose shoulders you stand upon. It is they who are now smiling down upon you as you go forward. We call upon the ancestors of our nation, those who indeed endeavored, who gave their life, their blood, their sweat, and their tears for us, that we may open all of the doors of education and innovation, that we indeed can stand here and talk about an African-centered education. And all of us would agree that the W.E.B. DuBois Preparatory Academy is African-centered to the bone. We say, Ashe.
Ashe.
We call upon those great ancestors. Please help me as we call upon them. We call upon the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We say, Ashe.
Ashe.
And one of our we say, Ashe.
Ashe. Baba Zamti. James Ingram.
All of those ancestors whose names we have read about and stories we have heard about in the history books. But the unnamed ancestors, those who went through the door of no return and were not expected to return, but now they do return. They return in you, and they return in those who are here today. They say to them, Ashe. We ask that they come and be a part of what it is that we do here today, and when they leave, because we know that we have much work to do, we ask that they take none of us with them and say, Ashe. We give libations to our elders, our elder teachers, our master teachers, those who have given all of their love and their commitment, their knowledge and their wisdom, have laid the foundation that we stand upon today. We give libations to all of those elders. We say, Ashe. And indeed, we give libations to you, the youth. All of this is about you. The tears that now come down your face. That's what this is all about. That we can see tomorrow through you. W.E.B. DuBois said it is strange that we have to look at ourselves through the eyes of others. But we don't have to do that. We're now looking at ourselves through our own eyes. And it is because of you. And we empower you with the vision, with the love. And we say to you as well, Ashe.
Say.
To those of you who are
Say.
We've always made do with what we have, and we appreciate that, son. And now we will have a special greeting by our Queen Mother, Nana Ama Moni Nakia Grantu, our Queen Mother. Let's give her a hand.
I came to honor our graduates, and so I feel special too. I thank you for that. To our special honored graduates, to our dear involved Superintendent of Public Schools, Dr. Smith, to our honored guests, our Council of the Elders, our board members, to Dr. Carter, my friend and relative, and to my family from out of town, Michael and Lisa, to my niece, Hasina, to our special guest, brothers Sufisha and Haki, who has been in our family for a long time, and to my loving, struggling, never did leave her eye off the prize, Imani. Chairwoman of the Board of Directors of W.E.B. DuBois Prep. I want to greet all of you, but I wanted to say something special first to the graduates and then to my sister Imani. You have made history today, sweet graduates. We know that you all have goals set for yourself. We know that you are going to continue to help liberate our people and build a nation. So we greet you in peace, Hotep, and we encourage you to keep on keeping on. And then to my sister, a special greeting, who had a vision more than 20 years ago, struggled by herself with her husband, with her children, with her family, with the Shule family, with CB, with first one then the other. And today is a historic day, so we greet you in victory today, because this is our first senior high school graduation of the vision of Imani Humphrey. So I want my sister to come so I can just hug her.
And now we will have an introduction of platform guests and special remarks by Mama Hasina Murray.
Bargani.
Jema.
And Jema Sante. I'd like to say I stand before you, standing on the shoulders of my mother Imani. My aunt was also my mother down here, and I think it's only fitting that I follow them. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our special guests, beginning to my left, with Brother Malik Yakini, Director of Insurance Institute, representing the Council of Independent Black Institutions this evening. Elder Brother Dr. Robert Bland, Vice President of Lewis College Business. Dr. Arthur Potter, Deputy Superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. Our dear friend, Sister Sharon Johnson Lewis, also Deputy Superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. Our brother, the Honorable Kwame Kenyatta. My mother, also Mama Emma Boyd, Kafiri Field. Our mistress of ceremonies, my sister in struggle, Myra. My sister, my friend, my buddy, my partner, my sister Lisa Richards. My brother who I grew up to be like, Michael C. Donovan. Our dear family friend, my father, Brother Hakeem Mahabuchi. Next to him, my sister, my mama, Tatisha Mahabuchi. My friend, my mother, Iman Humphrey. Our queen mother, Nana Ama Manin II, Mama Nakia. And Dr. David Sneed, Superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. And now, these beautiful people you see sitting before you, don't they look beautiful? As Dr. Mpya says, this is the beginning of the beginning again. 20 years ago, 4 brothers, myself, were the first graduates of Aisha Shule, then called the Alexander Crummell Affirmative School. So I think it's only fitting that 20 years later, we are graduating our first senior class and sending them off into the world. We are very proud of them. They've struggled hard. They've had their adulthood rights and earned the right to be called mom and papa. They've all stepped up to that position with pride and dignity. We are very proud of them. And I want to say to them, earlier this year I read this to them, so it's not going to be a surprise to them. But I want to share it with everybody because they mean so much to me, and it's been an honor to be their advisor, their sponsor, their friend, their teacher. That it's been a true blessing and a joy to work with you, to see you all thrive at this point in life's journey. Each of you is special and has a great gift to offer our nation and the world.
That's right.
Luchan, you have grown in quiet dignity and proven to yourself that you can do it all. Your self-discovery has just begun. Remember, you are standing on the shoulders of those who have gone before you. They are lifting you up so you can take the higher ground. Jamil, you have so much to give. You are learned and wise well beyond your years. Don't let fear shortchange you and take you off the path. The nation needs you in the battle for the minds of our people. Be who you know you are and accept what the Spirit has said that you must do. Muwasa, the truth awaits those who seek it diligently without falter. Use the force of your pen as a weapon in the war for the liberation of African people. Remember who and whose you are. Your grandmother's spirit is watching over you. Listen for her voice when you think you're lost, and she, along with the Creator, will guide you back to the right path. Aki. There's always calm and peace beneath the You've crossed over from the angry boy you used to be to the peaceful man you're becoming. A man who is in control of the rage within. Know who the enemy is. Don't waste energy fighting unnecessary battles with those who love you. There are other wars to fight. Now's the time to close the door on those things that bring you down. Now's the time to stand and face the sun as it opens the door on new horizons and new worlds waiting to be known. Now's the time to be ruled by love, not hate, by destiny, not obligation. The road awaits. Malika, you've become a woman at such a young age. Guard yourself. Carefully by standing on all that is truthful and righteous. You are a precious gem among us, and we do treasure you. You understand what it means to be an African in this place, and clearly know the mission, Aluta Continua. Again, my sister, guard yourself. Don't lose the woman you are in the force of the revolution. Know yourself. Be the great love of your own life first. When the time is right, the ancestors will call upon you. Be strong, stay healthy, stay ready. It is rare to see one so young who is in communion with the divine within. Sometimes it seems the burden of leading or giving guidance is more than you can bear. But you've worn it well. You don't yet know all of your power. You have touched the lives of so many with the force of your gentleness. Sister, you are a healer among us, and people need a healer. Even in the midst of turmoil, your light still shines. You have embodied the very essence of the African ways of humanity, compassion, love, respect, humility, and righteousness. You are ready for the journey that awaits you. The anxiety you feel is really anticipation. The world is ready for your light. Our people need a way out of the darkness. Don't be afraid to show them. Taifa. Your soul has traveled to places few people will ever dream of. You wonder why others remain confused when the answers are so clear to you. It is so easy to verbally deny who you are, but we know that you can't run from destiny. The rough places you've been were only there to prepare you for what lies ahead, because the journey will not always be easy. The Creator has great plans for you. That is why your soul journeys. That is why when your soul journeys, you have been able to see the light. The spirits of the ancestors have whispered your name throughout eternity, and all are around you protecting you, because your journey must be completed. You had to become a man long before you were ready, but look at the man you've become. It is with joy and sadness that we prepare to let you go. But don't be mistaken, you are ours forever.
That's right.
We will always love you, and we are always here for you. Don't ever be afraid to come here, to come home, no matter what happens. Come home and be renewed, be refreshed, and prepared to battle again. I love you with all my heart and with the heartbeat of eternity. Don't ever hesitate to call me if you need me. You all are some of the baddest people graduating from high school on the planet. We are all watching for the smoke you're going to leave behind. Peace, freedom belongs to you.
My sister, my friend, I'm not saying, you know you're not supposed to let them be quiet. Okay. Next we will have special remarks by Dr. David Sneed, the superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. Dr. Sneed.
See, Jamo. Wa alaikum salam.
think back when we first talked about chartering Aisha Shule, and I know now that the Detroit Public Schools is headed in the right direction.
That's right.
There were some folks the other day at one of our meetings who asked the question, where are we in the Detroit Public Schools with African-centered education? And I say to them, we're on our way. Look at Aisha Shule. I thought about you today, Mama and Mine, when I was informed that the principal of the school that you used to teach at in Detroit, Mpya High School, I believe, you used to work at. That principal is leaving to go to Southfield. I said, I wonder if we can get you back. Don't worry, we're not going to try to see.
That's right. We ain't giving her up.
But it would be nice to have somebody like you to make sure that we continue to move in the Detroit Public Schools with African-centered education. You're setting the example. We're going to soon need to move into the high school level. We have some elementary and some middle schools that are African-centered, but we don't, as of yet, have high school, except for Aisha Shule. We're looking to you as the example. You're setting the standard. Thank you for that. It is my pleasure to join all of our proud parents, staff members, family and friends of Aisha Shule for this very special occasion. This is a very exciting moment. The first graduating class of this fine educational institution. And I am delighted to be able to join you as the General Superintendent of the Detroit Public Schools. The first school district in Michigan to charter public schools. Couldn't have made a better choice to grant our first charter to Aisha Shule W.E.B. DuBois Preparatory School. It is my privilege to salute you, the first graduates of Aisha Shule, the class of 1996. Graduating from high school is a significant accomplishment, but we know that there are a number of individuals who have been beside you, behind you, providing the moral and spiritual support that you needed to get to this point. So let's take a moment to thank your parents and teachers and other significant adults there who have guided you along the way. Let's say thanks to all of them. Your education in a nurturing environment, the Aisha Shule W.E.B. DuBois Prep School, has been one of the most profound experiences of your life. You've had teachers who have taken a personal interest in you. Not that that doesn't happen in other Detroit public schools, but your school setting was a much smaller, more family-oriented atmosphere. You have been grounded in your own heritage, encouraged to dig deep inside to discover that you can accomplish whatever you choose.
That's right. That's right.
The world outside of Aisha Shule is a much larger, more impersonal place. And so I urge you, take what from your teachers and your parents and other caring adults, and gain strength from each new challenge. Use that knowledge to tear down those walls of ignorance. Use it to make that world a better place for people of color and for all who walk the face of this earth. You have been put to the test, and as soon-to-be graduates, you have come through with flying colors. Continue to fly and to follow your dreams. As you dream, visualize where you want to be in 5, then 10 years from now. Then work hard to make that dream become your reality. And while you're doing that, always remember what I call the 5 P's. And that's proper preparation prevents poor performance. Let's repeat that. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Got it. I know that everyone here is anxious to get on with the festivities so that you might get on with the rest of your life. So with no further ado, I wish you every happiness. May this just be the first of many more successes that you will enjoy from this day forward. And in closing, I leave you with these words. Congratulations, best wishes, and good fortune to you, the class of 1996.
And now we're going to have a musical selection by the beautiful and talented Lisa Richards, who is also an alumni of the Shoelay. Lisa.
I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to be here. I no longer live in Detroit and actually haven't lived here in a while. And I miss it so much. I miss this so much because living in Detroit, you kind of take for granted the cultural experience that you get here. And I've lived in a lot of different places and all over the world, and I tell you, I haven't found it as strong anywhere I found here. As my sister was saying, having started with the Shoelay more than 20 years ago. You know, and even though this is my family, I'm still so impressed. You know, and I'm so proud of all of you graduates. And I keep looking and thinking, how do we get so quickly from Mama Easter's class to graduation? High school graduation, you know? Anyway, the song I'm going to do is a song that I've been asked to sing on behalf of your Wanebu and most especially Mommy Money. Baba Translate is going to accompany me. If I could, I'd protect you from the sadness in your eyes, give you courage in a world of compromise. Yes, I would, if I could. I would teach you all the things I never learned, and I'd help you cross the bridges that I burned. Yes, I would, if I could. I would shield you from the innocence from time, but that part of life I gave you isn't mine. I want you to grow so I can let you go.
but I know that I could never wipe your tears, but I would if I could. In a time and place that you don't want to be, you don't have to walk along this road with me. My yesterday won't have to be your way if I knew. I would try to change the world I brought you to, but there isn't much more that I can do. But I would if I could. I would try to hide your innocence from time, but the part of life I gave you isn't mine. I watched you grow so I can let you go. If I could, I would try to help you through the 100 years, but I know that I cannot cry your tears. But I would, but I would, but I would, if I could, if I could, if I could. We thank Lisa and Baba Sensei for that beautiful, beautiful rendition. We would like to say, Lisa has toured the world as a vocalist, and we wish you peace and blessings, my sister, on your career, Sante Son. And now we will have the introduction of a class speaker by one of our graduating seniors, Malika Pryor. Malika. Habari za jioni. Hotel. Good evening, mamas and babas, honored elders, brothers and sisters. May I have permission from my elders to continue to speak? Sante. I was asked just about yesterday at 4 o'clock to do a 2-minute speech. On leadership. So as a traditional shule, I just wrote this about 10 minutes ago, so bear with me. Aisha Shule and the W.E.B. DuBois Preparatory School have given the senior class and continue to give all of its students the knowledge and tools necessary to facilitate the making of a leader. These teachings, which we, the seniors, have internalized, leave us, the rising generation, with the blessing and responsibility of being a teacher, a leader. As we go forward and take our place in the society of men and women, we must stand as pillars of strength and wisdom, humbly and honorably. Leaders by example. We must teach
our children and our fellow brothers and sisters the meaning of history, Sankofa, to go back and fetch it, to return to our past in order to move forward. We must speak the truth and walk with dignity and respect as we follow in the footsteps of our illustrious ancestors and elders. And lastly, we must think as proactive, revolutionary members of the community, restoring our people to their traditional greatness, becoming the leaders of our new nation. I would like to introduce the Kiongozi of Sankofa Rite of Passage Society. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Taifa. I've known Taifa, W.E.B. for 7 years, since we were in 5th grade. He's been my rival for 7 years. And we're also good friends. He is my brother. He's trustworthy, he's dignified, he is intelligent, he is special. He is the gem in our community. And what a man he has become. And Joy Chiameso Siobhan Greenwood, who has been my closest friend for 5 years, and I have known her for 7 of them, who has been by my side, whose shoulder I have cried on, who has been my sister through it all. I love you. I love you both. And the words of Mama Hasina, fly high. Thank you.
Just want all of us to take a moment and realize that it was a divine purpose for us being at the shoelace. It didn't happen by accident. It seems pretty awkward and virtually impossible to compile 9 years of experiences in 2 minutes of understanding. Especially when speaking of a place so wonderful and rich in its own spirit. I can remember being in the 3rd grade, and Mommy Monty gracefully entered the room with her warrior princess strut. And any of you all who know Mommy Monty know what I'm talking about. I still have that star home. So she reminded the class that we are that star, and that we should always strive to be what that star is and continue to shine through everything. From then on, as a student of the shoelace, I made many lifelong friends who were rooted in the same understanding of that star. Joy Chianeso Greenwood, our guiding light, and Malika Rashida, or Malika Righteous Pryor, are two of those shining friends who started at the beginning. And I love all the rest of y'all sitting down there. As time went on, I became enriched with the knowledge and understanding of myself, my people, and my responsibility to my community. You know I became attached. But I always wondered what would happen when it was time for me to leave shoelace. And at that time, the shoelace only went to 6th grade. But from there, something really funny happened. Every time I got ready to graduate from my shoelace career, they extended it by a year. But it just kept on going. And eventually, using my creative skills that I gathered at the shoelace, and having to read all those African folktales and Mommy gave like every other day, I created a story which I call the shoelace story, and most people in the shoelace have heard it, but I want my community. First, you begin as a Watusi, with Mommy Easter chasing you around saying, "Get your African tail back over here." An understanding of independent thinking, nation building, and familyhood. That is how, by this place, we call it No Walls because the Shule never closed in, can be named Aisha Shule, which translates from Kiswahili to mean life school. This place prepares us to live our lives under the eyes of the Almighty Creator and in divinity. It prepares us mentally, spiritually, physically, as well as academically. Not by force, but by example. Allowing us to pick and choose the necessities needed to define our character as African people. In my eyes, this place with no walls is my home. The people within this place with no walls are my family. If I calculated my hours correctly, according to my W.E.B trigonometry class, I spend more time at the Shule, with my Shule family, with my community, than I do with my mother and my father sitting over here. I'm not going to talk about the details of nothing like that. They say the Shule first. And on behalf of myself, Taifa and Mpya, and our parents, to my family, community, nation, and race, I want to say I give you my love, respect, time, honor, and pledge that I live and struggle as my people do. And I am because we are, and I will accept no less. Asante Sana.
Our pilgrimage back to our African selves would not have been possible without you. You have guided us around potholes. You have answered our questions patiently. You have appropriately spoiled us and scolded us and punished us and rewarded us, comforted us and consoled us in desperate times of need. We say asante. We appreciate your diligence and encouragement, and we now stand before you as new men and women, the cultivated fruit of your labor. I humbly ask that you look into the faces of our Taifa and Mpya and notice the courage and pride that stands before you. It is a reflection of the serious Africans that you are and birthed us to be. Taifa and Mpya, of African people.
That's right. That's right.
We must live and breathe the English society. We must honor and revere the Creator from which all things are possible. We must never lose touch, for we are the chosen ones, bound by prophecy, and our mission has been made very clear by our elders, and we must accept our past with courage, pride, and determination. We must raise children and build strong families in which to ensure that our mission continues. Fellow students of Aisha Shule and W.E.B. DuBois Preparatory School, the torch is now passed on to you. I hope that my time here has been influential to you. I hope that I have touched at least one of your lives. And now it's your responsibility to be an example for those who follow you. You must respect your teachers and your parents. You must preserve and protect this institution that Mommy has built. You must cherish these days of shoelahood. These past 9 years of my life, my shoelahood, have been influenced tremendously. These years have shaped my life academically, politically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and socially. This institution is truly developing new African children who will have a broader vision. We have no doubt proven the skeptics wrong. It is evident in the life of Mani Mani. It is evident in the life of Aisha Shule, which means school of life. It is evident in the life of the students. It is evident in the life of myself. Mani Mani was not able to be at my rite of passage a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't greet her at the beginning of my address because I want to give her special recognition. I want her to know that I love her and that she is like a second mother to me.
And now we have the introduction of our commencement speakers by Michael and Samantha.
It's a real honor to be here today. A whole lot of reasons. And I came back to Detroit just for this graduation because some of these young people here, I've seen them since they started at the shule. When I look at them, there's a lot of things that come to mind. One of the things is, Mama, look what you've done. Let me tell you a little story about my mother. When we were children, my mother worked at the House of Youth. And she used to drag my brother and I up the street, across the bridge, down the street, over to the University of Detroit, where she was trying to get her degree so she could teach. And at 9 years old, I went to my mother's graduation. And from then till now, she has taught everyone who has come in her path. She has insisted upon excellence, achievement, commitment, and her vision has always been broad. We live in a time when it seems like there's no hope. We watch the news. I'm going to go kind of fast. We watch the news, we read the paper, we hear folks talking about us as though we were a science experiment. As though we lived in some far-off, distant land called inner city. As if we were some strange people from another planet, and folks just can't figure out why the beat is so loud and the rhythm so fierce, and we keep moving with all these colors and doing all these weird things, and they don't understand what is happening to the world. People burn down churches. Police brutalize folks. Public schools struggling to try to turn out functional illiterates. Look around this room today. Look at these young people. Look at their parents, their teachers, those who support them, those who reached in their pockets to pay their tuition, those who stood up with them and try to help them. We are the people of hope. Even in the bottom of a ship, filled with death and fear, we knew that that was a condition, it was not our destiny. Even on a plantation, 100 degrees outside in the south, picking cotton, chopping tobacco, banned from reading, drums outlawed. Even there, shackled. We were not slaves, we were enslaved because we were the people of hope. We knew it was a condition, it was not our destiny. Even when folks had to get in the back of the bus, couldn't vote, couldn't look white folks in the eye, couldn't walk on the sidewalk, couldn't drink from the water fountain, couldn't go in the front door. Couldn't do all the things that by your birthright as a human being you should be able to do. We understood it was a condition. It was not our destiny. We are the people of hope. Even when folks stood up to get beat down, assassinations, incarcerations, folks had to move out into exile, out of the country, because the police wanted them, amongst other folks. Even when we thought we would lose, sometimes, we understand and understood that our defeat was only a condition. It's not our destiny. These are the things that my mother taught me. When she began to build this school, I knew that that same vision would be given to these young people. Along with certain skills that they would need to not just fight, because warring is only part of it. Life is about building. And one of the things that she did early on was to expose me to people. We used to have all these strange characters in our house. Some were educators, some were, I don't know what they were. Some were activists, some were preachers, some were business people, some were politicians, some were students. My mother taught public school. She used to always have all these students of hers in our house plotting insurrections against the school system. And for those of you who don't know, she also designed the African American Literature Program for the Detroit Public Schools, the first one. And for those of you who don't know, she's done the only annotated bibliography of Black women painters in America. But in addition to these people that came to our house and raised all kinds of interesting discussion and possibilities and ideas that we discussed and fought over and went at from various angles, she exposed us to people who we didn't get to meet right away, in literature, tapes, and speeches. She exposed us to Malcolm X, taught us about him, and explained how some folks, including some Black folks, were afraid of his voice because he spoke the truth, but you should never be afraid of the truth. She told us about King, the freedom riders, put us, my brother and I, in a Boy Scout troop that was really not really a Boy Scout troop. A brother named Haywood Wilson, who was no longer with us, but who was the field coordinator for Corps in Michigan. And he used to take us to the so-called Boy Scout meetings that my mother had put us in. And he would teach us how to organize. And he would send us home and through our community with pamphlets about the freedom riders. He would teach us how to talk to people about ideas that they may not understand or may be afraid of, but how to convince them that this is only our condition. It is not our destiny. And early on, I started writing poetry. Back then, it wasn't too good. Of course, I thought it was. My mother being a literature teacher, she exposed us to a lot of people. One of the people that she gave me a book, a slim volume, about 10 poems. It's by a brilliant, fiery young poet out of Chicago, whose use of language was so lyrical and rhythmic, and whose visions and images spoke to my heart. Because I knew from the first poem that I read that he was not afraid of the truth.
That's right.
And that he understood, as I had been raised, that we can conquer anything. That this is only a condition. It is not our destiny. But beyond knowing that, as I read more of him, I understood that he also understood and was teaching us that knowing that this is our condition is only part of it. You can know something is bad, but you might still do it. You can know something is good, and you might not do it. There comes a time when you have to make a choice. Paul Robeson said, "Here I stand." There comes a time when you know that there's a battle to be fought. You know that there's an enemy to be faced. You know there's a problem have to be well. You have to decide whether you're with those folks. You have to say to yourself, I'm with Frederick Douglass and Paul Robeson and W.E.B. DuBois. You have to make a choice at some point. And as I read these poems, those choices got clearer and clearer. And I was fortunate enough to meet this poet early in my life. He became another one of the characters around my family. I began to travel back and forth to Chicago, Newark, Cleveland, Atlanta, New York, and meet other people in an organization called the Congress of African People. And in this organization, there were actually a lot of poets, a lot of thinkers. And all of them weren't men. We began to learn that a lot of the things that we had to unlearn is that men must follow women. Because if you don't learn that, you'll be like a dog chasing his tail. And that's the circle you don't want to get in. But you know the end result. Bite your own ass. But we have to learn to follow women. Because without that, you will never know God. I told you I was going to move fast. A lot of stuff will come in a few seconds. I learned this because I grew up in a family of very strong women. And it took years to understand that through following women, I discovered God.
That's right.
I did not grow up in a family where my mother and aunt would always be home at 4 o'clock cooking dinner and watching soap operas. In fact, I recall many a night when my mother would call home and say, "You see that chicken on the counter? This is what you do. I'll be home at 7, have a break." But learning these things came about through a long process. And I met a sister when I was very young, who was in Chicago and had this sense of focus and clarity and peace about her, and I always admired her. And it came not just watching from afar, but seeing how she worked and led people, how she was able to convince people of her ideas, and how in a world dominated by men, when those ideas aren't always accepted, how she persevered with clarity and persistence until she was heard. I have been blessed and fortunate to have been raised in the family I was raised in and in the community that I was raised in. I look around this room and I see brothers, Jeff Edison, who in 1969 made me give the first speech in my life at Malcolm X Day in Northern High School. We were planning this, looking around the room. Jeff was the head of the student body. And everybody in the room had something to do but me. And Jeff looked over there and said, "What are you doing tomorrow on this program?" "I'm just here to help." "Well, you're going to give this speech tomorrow." And I was terrified, but he had faith in me. I look on the stage, I see Malik Yakini and Kwame Kenyatta, who I met when they were student activists. And they were shaping their skills, developing their tools to lead people, to fight our battles. I look at my aunt, Mpya, whose trips back and forth to Africa have not only enriched her and us, but Africa. That she has taken what is the best of our people back to Africa to represent the nation on this side of the water. I look at my brothers, the warriors, Abamosa, and all the battles that he has fought privately and publicly to raise his children in a world that's hostile to our families. And look at my sister Hasina, the teacher, who we knew would be in some position where she could tell people what to do. This is quite an honor to hear my sister Lisa sing and express herself artistically, which we also knew from the time she was a child. And being introduced to the world as we've been introduced, and to be able to see the accomplishments of the Aisha Shule, and to know that there is a line, a river, a stream, that goes from all of these things that I've talked about to these people who have influenced me and you, directly and indirectly. It is an honor to be able to welcome here Safisha and Hakeem Ali.
and helped to shape the person that she was. She said, because unlike this view of identity that is socialized in this country and in the West, and that you see all around you, your identity does not belong to you. That you have been invested with the spirit and the love and the blood and the sweat and tears of a lot of people. And everything that you do from this day until you reach you like heaven, my friend, will reflect back on the energy that all of these people in this community have shared and tried to build in you. And from the presentations that you've made today and the way that you carry yourself, I am very confident that you will carry yourself in pride. I'm doing some interesting work right now, having been in the school for a very long time, but I'm now doing some work going backwards in a public high school. And the idea of a young person looking to an elder and saying, may I have permission to speak is revolutionary. The idea of a young person today proudly proclaiming that he or she is an African person is a revolutionary move today. But I would like to say to these young people that you're just at the beginning of your journey, and although the struggles to get where you are and what you've gone through in your rites of passage to allow you now to be called mama and papa is a wonderful, wonderful thing about living in a shoeline where you grow old and young people come up to you that you haven't seen in years. You have to look at them, figure out who they are, and then call you mama. And that's we read about the fortitude of our ancestors. We talk about what it meant to live in the bows of those ships. We talk about all of this in a very profound and powerful way. But I have said for many years that there are at least 3 ways in which each of you and all of us embody the heroism of a Harriet Tubman. You may not, and hopefully will not, face a situation where you're putting your physical life, although sometimes walking the city in Detroit streets you may be doing that,
Hey, say
but
that.
in a different sort of way. But what it takes for you to build a family, to build businesses, and to build institutions, what it takes inside of you to do that is what will make you a Harriet Tubman, or an Ida B. Wells, or Frederick Douglass, or Malcolm X, or Lonnie Humphrey. We grew up together in this movement of developing independent African American schools. And the kind of pure guts that it takes, when I would call every few years, and what's happening with the shoelay? The shoelay is moving. We're in another building. And I would tell her the story, our roof is falling in, and the rain is coming on through the building. You really cannot understand. We have in Chicago just recently bought what we call a new school building that we have inherited from the Catholics who left it. But for us, it's a new building, requiring lots of work. And in the midst of trying to build the institution, then yesterday, some in the absolute heroism of what it takes to not give up and say, I'm tired, I think I'll go back to London or whatever it was, high school, and teach and give me a paycheck. We absolutely depend upon you young people out here. You are, in the absolute and real sense, you are our future. And you know that the testimony of the investment and the hope that we're placing in you and the commitment that you have given us as you have spoken to us in this ceremony today is to be able to come back to Detroit, Michigan in the next 10 to 15 years and not see what you see. You understand what I'm saying? We talk about, those of us, and Monday night, there's many conversations about this. When you're absolutely really trying to build and sustain something, the big word just sounds great. Sounds wonderful. All the flavors is wonderful. But until such time as we can come out here in a city like Detroit, Michigan, with a majority black population, or a city like Chicago, with a 40% African American population, and see these houses out here renewed, see that there are businesses that are run and developed by black people, that the vision of this graduate school in your favor is in fact a reality. That is the challenge. That's the challenge. We do not remember Mary McLeod Bethune because she was a nice lady. We remember her because she built an institution. We do not remember Marcus Garvey because he has wonderful things to say. We remember him, and people still remember him all over the continent today because he built hospitals. He had airplanes. He had newspapers. But there was obviously something that was missing because it's not there today. We have to deal with a real world where the stakes are very, very high and the demands on you are greater than you can even imagine. The qualities that you will need to take up this challenge involve, as you're going, this is a wonderful testimony, Mr. Superintendent, of a high school that has 100% of its students going on to college.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
And you can't go on there and come back and say it was hard. You can't go there and say I got tired. You know? You got to go in there with the business that is sticking with whatever it is they have out there for me. Believe me, it's going to be difficult. But there's certain qualities that you're going to need. One of those qualities is to never give up.
Never give up.
Never give up. The reason, as Peter said, that we are a people of hope is because as a people, if your grandmama and your great-granddaddy had given up, you would not be walking on the face of the earth today. You would not be here. So you have to have deep down inside of you this fundamental belief that says, I will never give up. You must commit yourself to continuous preparation because the future in the 21st century in which you are going to participate is not one that any of us here can know. If you think back 60 or 70 years ago, people who are in that generation may have never imagined that somebody would walk on the moon. If you really seriously think about that, you think back and ask your grandma if she thought when she was a kid that she would see a human being walking on the moon, she would tell you, no, that was never in my grandest dreams did I ever think that that was humanly possible. There are going to be things happening in the world that none of us here can know and predict. But you must be prepared for them by continuous study. You must maintain deep rootedness to what it means to be African, because the more you move up that educational ladder, the more you're going to be surrounded with images and with pressures that say, if you think you're African, that's crazy, and you need to move away from that. And you'll have to periodically come back home and get a big strong hug from your Shule family so that you can go back into this place that's going to deny that Africanness. You must have patience. The dreams that you have for yourself are not going to be realized quickly. They're not going to be realized when you get that college diploma. That college diploma is just going to be the beginning of another long, long journey. And you have to keep that eye on the prize and be very patient, and you must be humble. You must be humble and be able to listen to others, and also to not fear to both embrace and to critique tradition. Much that is traditional African value is powerful, and that's why we're here. And there are some aspects of our tradition that we need to let go. And learning how to do that is not easy, and there's no single road that's going to take you there. In closing, I would just like to say that there is a phrase in a poem by Gwendolyn Brooks that I call upon very often because I think that it embodies the spirit of heroism that we expect to see in you every day of your life. When she talked about conducting our blooming in the midst of the whirlwind, which is what we're doing here. And she said to us to say that the river turns. Don't just say that the river turns, but in fact, turn the river. Thank you.